So we continue with laws of the Sefer Torah found to have an error, right? And we are it's Siman 24 and Sif number 6. And we left off on this showing of the child to the child, right? So okay, so Sif number 6. When showing a letter to a child, one is not required to cover before him the letters that follow the character in question. When the letters are preceding the character in question, it is customary to cover. So let's see the commentary, and we're going to explain. So basically, we're not sure if this letter still have this shape, the correct kosher shape or not, right? So basically, we call this child, and they say some letters we cover, some we don't cover, because as we said before, so maybe he knows the word and he can read this letter with all of the other words, with all other letters, and like figure what it says there. So one more time, and we're going to comment. However, the letters that preceding the character in question, so before that, right, it is customary to cover commentary. Although the child might use the content to help you identify the letter, one is not required to cover the letter that follow the character in question. However, we do not allow him to see the letters that precede it, for the child might be familiar with this word. So, I mean, of course, as I said before, the child is not especially smart, not especially dumb. So, I mean, even if he's not especially smart, but maybe this word he does know, right? So we follow. That's why we cover the letters that precede this letter in question, and without focusing on on the letter in question. Right, so we just cover the preceding letters. So one more time. However, we do not allow him to see the letters that precede it, for the child might be familiar with the word, and without focusing on one letter in question, will guess at which letter would follow. So I mean, as we said, it's like logically, just because he's little and does not seem to understand. Maybe this word, as we said, he does know, right? And he will figure what, based on the preceding letters, what the letter in question is. We would then have not have the judgment of what is written, but a guess at what should be written. So that's not what we want. We don't want any guess, and we want him to tell us what the letter is. We therefore cover the preceding letters. Mishnah Brura 52:51, however, writes that the preceding words should be covered. Preceding words should be covered, but does not require covering the preceding letters of the word containing the questionable letters. Okay, I'm not sure. I learned, but I don't remember why exactly she said that. So preceding words, he said cover, but not necessarily the preceding letters of the word containing a questionable letter. I'm not sure why. Okay, but it makes sense. So basically, one more time, we don't want him to guess. We want him to tell us what he sees. If letter was broken by a hole in a parchment, and a part of it remained beneath the puncture, and we are unsure whether the part of the letter that is above the puncture is of required size. One is required to cover the part of the letter that is beneath the puncture before showing to the child. Okay, so let's try to understand. So now a little different situation, right? So in this case, it was a hole, as we did discuss. They call it puncture, right? Last time, and we want to see if the letter still did not lose its shape. So I mean, partially it lost its shape, but if it's still kosher shape. So one more time. If the letter was broken by a hole in a parchment, right? So as we said before, so we assume that the hole was developed after the letter was written, right? And a part of it remained, okay? So some hole, okay, some part of it remained beneath the puncture. So, okay. And we are unsure whether the part of the letter that is above the puncture is of the required size. So let's see commentary, number 34. As we have seen in CF number 4, if there is a puncture to the parchment around the letter, and the letter remained its specified form, the Sefer Torah is kosher. Similarly, if the puncture pierced through a letter, but the form of the letter is still intact, albeit a bit thinner or shorter, the Sefer Torah is kosher. So that's why we need this little guide to tell us if this letter is thick enough to be kosher, right? So that's what we need him. So one more time, the letter is above the puncture's required size. Okay. One is required to cover the part of the letter that is beneath the puncture. So, okay, before showing to the child. So let's see what was the rationale. So basically we cover part of the letter and see if he understands what the letter is. For the child will include it. And in truth, it should not be included. Commentary. Here the child is being called upon to determine whether the letter, for example, a vav, retains its form without the section beneath the hole. He must therefore be shown only the part above the hole, so that he will not include the part beneath the hole if in his determination. So basically, this little guy would need to know if this letter, whatever left from the hole, right? Like above the hole, if it still looks like a vav in this example. Okay. So I mean, if we leave him with a hole, and of course he would combine this piece underneath and say, okay, this is vav. So that's not what we want. Okay. Similarly, if the ink flaked off part of the letter and some impressions of the part remain, they are required to cover it, so that the child should not include it in determining whether the properly black part retain its proper form. So let's read it one more time, and we're going to explain. Similarly, if the ink flaked off of the letter, as we said yesterday, or no, the day before yesterday, it's very, very possible. So ink just flaked off, meaning like was not scraped, but fell off by itself. And some impression of the part remains. So it's not as black. This part is not as black as the whole letter. Right? They're required to cover it, right? Meaning that part. So the child should not include it in a determined whether the properly black part retains its proper form. So let's see commentary. Early in the CF4, Kitzur ruled that if the letter has lost its ink, so that it is no longer black, right, the Sefer Torah becomes unfit for use. That's we're talking about completely the whole letter, right? Where it is unclear whether enough of the character has remained black, it is shown to a child. Here, to the child must not be shown the faint portion of the letter that is not considered valid, right? So, okay, I mean, if he can read the letter the way it is, right, without this portion of the letter that's missing an ink. To prevent him from including that in his determination, concerning the remaining black of the part of the letter. So basically, the way I understand, they're trying to say, so let's say, right, this this piece of the letter that does not have enough ink, so it is missing, right? It's missing completely. That's why they cover this part, and they ask child if he can steal this letter, he can still read this letter. That's the thing.